Welcome back, everyone, to the Palmera Pickleball podcast. This is Jeremy Bourgeois, and we're back for episode 2. And today we have a special guest on, Cody Brick.
Thanks for having me.
Why don't you give us a bit of background on yourself, how you started playing pickleball, what your background is?
I grew up playing all sports, and then I pursued baseball at the collegiate level and spent some time trying to play professionally. And then I was home from playing college baseball, and I was hanging out with my dad, and he said, we're going to play a pickleball tournament on Saturday. And I said, what's pickleball? And we went out and played the next day and had a ton of fun. We played the tournament, got our ass kicked by a bunch of old guys, but I was hooked. I got really into it. And then from there, me and my buddies just started playing like every night at the local courts. And, 2.5 years later, here we are.
Cool. So what is Brickwall Pickleball and what are you guys doing?
Yeah, so Brickwall Pickleball started as just kind of like local Moneyballs in South Florida. And I really just started it so that I myself could have an avenue to, compete at the highest level without paying the really expensive registration fees. And from there, the payouts kept growing and the competition started growing, and we started bringing out pros and bringing out all the top players in South Florida. And since then, it's kind of evolved into almost like an independent pro series. And we're based right now in 3 cities and still expanding. We have 2 events a month in Fort Lauderdale, and now 2 events a month in Baltimore. And in a week, we're going to launch Atlanta, and later this summer in Chicago. And so it's like an independent pro series for the top players outside of, and sometimes including the PPA Tour, to compete for a couple $1,000s on a weekly basis, and all work towards a end of year championships via qualifying through their earning points in individual events.
That's cool. That sounds really cool. That sounds like a great way for players who want to play at a high level to get the reps in, get the competition, and not have to pay the crazy prices that the PPA would charge to play like one round of qualies.
Yeah, so to play just the men's doubles pro qualifier right now will run you like at least $320 was the last one that I paid. And, if you're going to play 2 events, it's a little over 500. And to play all 3 events between singles, men's or women's, and mixed, it's going to be over $700 to compete in that event just for, a single elimination qualifier with no payout at the end of it.
Yeah. And that can be tough if you're trying to make it as a pro and you're young, don't have a lot of money. You're already paying for your travel out there, assuming you're not sponsored. So that's great for getting high reps. I had a similar idea. Obviously not for pros here in Nicaragua because there's not that many, but just for like the 4.0 to 5.0 level.
Yeah.
The Moneyball, just to get those high level reps with the pressure of competition in. I think it's a really cool way.
I think Moneyballs are like peak pickleball, like bringing a community together to compete for a bunch of cash is really in line with what the sport is about, being created on an island outside Washington State, just a couple of guys inventing a game to compete and have fun with. And I think Moneyballs are a really cool part of the pickleball culture where you just get a bunch of people together to throw money in a pot and compete and have fun and build camaraderie and competition, and the winner goes home with the pile of cash.
So tell us a bit about the format of your tournaments. I think you mentioned some of them are money balls, some of them aren't. Are they standard brackets, or how does that work?
The format for each event is essentially pools of 4. So if we have 32 teams, it'll be 8 pools of 4, and you play every other team in your pool. So you play at least 3 games through the pool play, and then everyone advances into like a large seeded bracket, kind of like a March Madness bracket. And you play out the bracket from there until you get to the finals, best of 3, and that's how it goes.
What are some of the big name pros you've attracted, or at least recognizable names that have played in your events?
Some names I can't because they're PPA signed, but outside of that, we have Tanner Tomasi. He's an incredible player as well and a great guy. Richard Livanese, he just got a silver at the U.S. Open. He's won gold on the APP Tour. He's an incredible player and a great guy as well. Spencer Lanier, Jaden Broderick, Andreas Silverstrom. He was like an OG PPA MLP guy. Again, just awesome guy, incredible player. probably not like mainstream recognizable names, but like up in the Northeast, we get a lot of the top players in the region. We had Jonathan Trong come out. He's the number one ranked junior in the world. I've been playing him in Moneyballs for years, and I beat him my first time, but I haven't got him since. He's an incredible player. His sister Alex is on the PPA tour, and so just wherever we are, wherever the event is, we just try to pull the best players in that region to come compete.
Cool. So how stiff is the competition in your money balls? Are they,
Pro level.
I assume it stays friendly, right? It's nothing like at MLP that we've seen in the past few weeks.
Generally, it's very friendly. There's a lot of camaraderie. A lot of people are surprised that I say that I've never had like a real major fight. I've run 30, 40 of these at this point, and we've never had like a big, real fight over line calls or cheating or anything like that. It's very communal. It's a lot of, like I said, camaraderie, and it's, super fierce on court, but once everyone gets off court, it's very, friendly. And
Pretty chill. That's cool.
at that level, everyone knows each other. They train together. You're on tour together. It's not strangers that you would be getting in screaming matches with. It's the guy you are going to drill with tomorrow and the guy you're going to share an Airbnb with, 2 weekends from now. So I think that also kind of plays a role.
You mentioned you started in Florida. Why Florida?
Yeah, I mean, I was living there. I had a apartment with a roommate in Delray Beach, and I was just there, and I had just come back from a pro qualifier in Dallas, and I felt like I was right there, but I knew that my bank account wasn't going to allow me to play another qualifier for a long time. So I had a friend who was in town from Maryland, and we used to play Moneyballs together all the time up in Maryland, and so I threw together like 4 teams at the park, and we just threw $50 in the pot, and we competed for some cash, and it was a lot of fun. And like I said, I just come back from Dallas, and I was like, oh, this is probably a really good way for me to keep getting the competition that I want. And so I did it again the next weekend. Then we got 5 teams, and then again a few weekends after that, and we got 6 teams, and then 8 teams at a country club invited us to like host there, and we got 8 teams, and then 12 teams, and then 12 again, and then 12 for a while, and then it just kind of expanded from there.
That's cool. And now you're seeing the demand in other cities. I assume like in Maryland.
I was optimistic, but my expectations were relatively reserved for launching, in Baltimore. Obviously, Florida is like the pickleball pinnacle of the world, and I didn't have the brand in Baltimore yet, so I was cautiously optimistic. But we filled up our first time with 24 teams. We had a wait list, and then actually just yesterday we hosted our second event in Baltimore, and again 24 teams with a wait list. So we're going to try and continue to expand that. But I'm really thrilled with the very positive reaction, I think, in the region. Pickleball doesn't have a really great option for aspiring pros with the cost of the qualifiers and most regional tournaments having really, really poor payouts because they're profit focused. And so we try to fill that niche and give people a way to compete at the highest level and compete for a couple $1,000s without having to pay an outrageous entry. It's $100 to play, and it's a 4-game minimum all teams. There's no driving 8 hours and then losing first round and being out. Like at worst, you lose every game. You're still playing 4 matches. And so yeah, so far the reaction's been very positive, and I'm very grateful for that.
If you don't mind me asking, what advice would you give to people looking to start money balls or something in their own community?
Don't try to make money.
That's good advice. Yeah, I can see how that could ruin it.
That is precisely what I think has ruined the current tournament landscape, is that they are all not just for profit on paper, but the intent is to profit. And I think that there's not a lot of tournaments where the focus for the organizer isn't to profit. And so with that, you see, really steep registration fees for really minimal profit. And not just talking about the PPA and the APP, but like even regional tournament developers or not tournament hosts are charging more than I charge and paying out a fifth. And I think that that deters high level players from participating, which then deters the medium high level players and so forth and so on. I think that it's just not a fun system for anyone. I think that one of the reasons we've been so successful is we are constantly striving to expand the payout. And because we are constantly trying to pay out more, pro players want to come play because they can win, they can go home with $1,000 in their pocket.
Yeah, and that compounds on itself, right? You get so and so coming in, and then so and so thinks they can beat them. They have a chance. They're coming in.
Exactly. And then even for the people who, probably in their heart of hearts know that they're not going to win, but they are, let's say, trying to play at the professional level, they're going out and grinding qualities. Like this is your opportunity to play a 4 game minimum against pro teams
And see how you compare against them.
see how you compare, see what you need to work on, and get the play top guys, whether it's Andreas or Richard or Tanner or Jonathan Trong. Like these they come because it's a 3,500 cash payout, right? But then the 5 5s below them come because they think they can beat them and think and want to see if they can, that sort of thing. But I think it starts with a fair payout, and very few people right now offer a fair payout, and we really pride ourselves on a fair payout.
Tell us a bit about more about yourself. When did you start playing pickleball? What paddle are you maining these days?
I started playing about almost 3 years ago now, 2.5, 3 years ago. I trial a few different paddles. I don't have one I'm committed to yet. I'm hoping soon to. We'd like to, with Brickwall Pickleball, partner with some major paddle companies and have them be involved with the events. And so I'll probably end up using one of those. But for now, I kind of rotate between trialing a few different paddles that I really like.
What do you see the future of the sport of pickleball looking like?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that if you look back on pro sports when they first came into existence, whether it's baseball in the late 1800s or football and basketball through the mid 20th century, what it looked like 3 5 years in is nothing like it looked like 10 20 years in. And so I think that we're still a long ways away from solidifying the structure of the sport. Obviously, the PPA and the APP and MLP are all kind of vying for that. And you're seeing a lot of investment in India and Vietnam and East Asia. And a lot of these leagues and tours can coexist, but I think that there's going to be a lot of jostling for what the sport's going to look like. And I'm curious myself to see where that tug of war ends up, and hopefully Brickwall Pickleball is a part of shaping that future.
Yeah, and I think it will be from the way like you see the PPA, like the qualities is so expensive. The court experience is not optimal at even like the highest level PPA. You go into the first round of qualies and you're playing on taped courts.
They've mostly been able to do away with that, but APP is still hosting pro main draw matches on courts with cracks in them. And I was actually just messaging with a guy who's going to play one of my Moneyballs soon in Atlanta, and he was talking about how the last PPA qualifier he played, it felt like a local tournament and not pro experience. And so I'm curious to see how it all shapes out. I think that the PPA especially does a poor job of offering a legitimate opportunity for players to pursue the sport professionally.
Yeah. And they have some funny stuff too that they need to button down with. Like for instance, the whole targeting rule
Yeah, yeah.
in February. Like just funny, weird, quirky stuff.
I think the sport for a while. I mean, even baseball is 170 years in as a professional sport, and you're still seeing new rules being proposed and added in. So I think we probably have a long ways to go as far as solidifying the pickleball rulebook. But I think having two warring governing bodies between UPA and USA Pickleball probably isn't for the best of the sport.
How do you think the game pickleball will evolve? Like if you watch a match from, so let's say 2022 versus 2024 or 25, it's so different.
I think it's going to keep getting faster and more aggressive, but hopefully in a more skilled way. So I'm hopeful that the paddles will get very slightly scaled back. And I think that skilled players will still be able to wield a slightly less powerful paddle and hit rockets and be super aggressive. But I think with paddles being too explosive, it kind of takes away some of the skill that makes pickleball really unique. With a delaminated mod or a gearbox, you can just be less skilled and just whack away at it. And I think that while the game is definitely getting faster and more aggressive, I'm hoping that it will happen in a way that requires more skill, whether that's learning how to you see Len Yang, right, who's incredibly aggressive from that. He just won the US Open. Incredible backhand flick, but it's a very skilled shot. It's not just popping someone with a mod, right? Obviously
Right.
he's with Yola. It's a very powerful paddle, but he's an incredibly skilled player to create that snap. And so I hope that it happens more in ways like that, as opposed to just these crazy explosive paddles. I think the game will continue to get faster and more aggressive, but hopefully in a slightly different way than what we kind of saw over the last 6 months to a year.
I forget which PPA tournament it was, but it was back when the pro players were still allowed to play with the mod. Federico Staxrud had the mod, playing
Yeah,
against Kwang Dong with just like a crappy old Selkirk,
yeah, yeah.
like and double pickled him in like the semis or something.
Yeah, it's especially in singles. Really, I think the game benefits more, not necessarily from being slower, but with having slower paddles. It kind of increases, I think, the skill threshold to do those things and to make the ball do what you want to do.
Do you see it maybe in the future if paddles become more powerful? Do you see it becoming somewhat like singles and padel, where it's kind of non-existent compared to doubles?
I don't know that pickleball singles will ever be fully like expunged, but I do think that it's probably less of the future of the pro game as much as doubles.
What are your thoughts on rating systems? And would you ever partner with a rating system?
Yeah, I abhor UTRP. I think it's ridiculous. Universal Tennis Pickleball.
Yeah.
I genuinely I think it's insane that the APP partnered with them. I think that it's insane that it even exists, calling it tennis rating pickleball. But fortunately, there's next to no shot that wins out as the rating system. Duper, I think, obviously has a lot of flaws and needs to be improved, but I think probably the best we got. And I'm hopeful that it will continue to improve and evolve to be a really strong and productive rating system. We'll just have to kind of see where that all shakes out.
So, Cody, where can people find you on socials?
Right now, through Instagram at Brickwall Pickleball, and then
Okay,
the
cool.
site brickwallpickleball.com will be coming very soon, days to weeks.
All right, Cody, thanks for your time today. It was great chatting with you and hearing about what you're doing with Brickwall Pickleball in the pro pickleball scene in the US.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to seeing Palmera, come to fruition.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thank you for your time, and it was great chatting with you.
Thank you so much.
You can follow us on Instagram. We have a YouTube channel as well. We're going to be updating the YouTube channel with things like tutorials and other information on Instagram. That's how you can also keep in touch with us or follow our progress at different events that we're going to. And lastly, you can go to palmerapickleball.com and you can sign up to our email newsletter. We will be having a monthly email newsletter, so that's another way that you can follow our progress. But we hope that you'll follow this show, and if you ever feel like reaching out to us, you can get us on Instagram or subscribe to the email and you'll find other contact methods there.